What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 73 of the RDO podcast with the boys, Jason and Alex von Kennel. How are you this morning, bro?
It's the Boxing Day special, kind of, isn't it? Really?
Well, it would be the Christmas public holiday special because we are recording this on Friday. It's Christmas Eve. Christmas is tomorrow, Saturday. Boxing Day, Sunday. I believe Monday is the Christmas public holiday.
Yeah.
Which will be when you guys listen to this, and Tuesday is the Boxing Day public holiday.
There you go. Yeah, I'm good.
You good?
I had an interesting drive. I went to the gym yesterday, and I was at home, so I had to drive here, and the storm hit in Brisbane.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, why is it there was so much traffic? And I was like, this is abnormal. So I opened up Google Maps and said, like, just put the directions to the gym, and it said, longer than usual or more than usual traffic. I'm like, okay. Anyway, a tree on Coronation Drive had fallen on a car.
Wow.
And when I say fallen on a car, it was like the car was driving.
Yeah.
And the car was hit in the second lane over. And it was a big tree. So it was to the point where it bent. It hit so hard, the A-pillars had bent on the... it was a little Honda Jazz.
Jesus. Because those trees over Cora Drive, like, they do stretch out a long way. And they are massive as well.
Yeah, but I wonder if it's been hit by lightning or something. Because the rain was heavy, but there was no wind. So do they get waterlogged? I don't know. I don't know how trees work, but yeah, that was a.
But look, they do. Those are like jacaranda trees, aren't they?
You're the landscaper, mate. I have no idea.
Yeah, I do they have purple flowers?
On that street, they do have a lot of jacarandas. Yes.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised because some of those arms stretch out a fair way. It's just a leverage thing. So because those jacaranda leaves, they probably hold a lot of water. So if the branch was dying at all or something, my boss is going to give me so much shit about this. But yeah, if it's raining a lot and they're holding a lot of water and it's putting a lot of pressure on, it's just snapping off at the base. But
yeah, that's a bit of
that's
action,
pretty full on. You don't expect to have a tree fall on your car in the middle of Brisbane, do you?
No, and it's one of those rare events where there's probably nothing you can do. You know. A Formula 1 driver wouldn't have been able to do anything. Like, you wouldn't know. You'd just be driving, and then next second...
Because you probably already would have been in Brisbane traffic too, so they could have even been stopped.
Yeah, but the traffic's fine then. It's like, it was before peak hour, and going the right way. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, that's unlucky. Very unlucky.
So by the time you got to it, there was no one in the car, everyone was out.
The guy was out of the car trying to get the tree off it.
Oh, right. Wow.
So it would have been fresh.
Yeah, okay.
How's your week?
Big week. My hands are sore.
Yeah.
So, done about 40-something hours this week in the last 4 days. I checked my phone before. I've walked 50 kilometres in 4 days. And most of that is up and down, like, hills and stuff, either carrying a whippersnipper or pushing a mower or whatever. But no, it's good, man. Like, I'm really, really enjoying it. Like, I'm enjoying... being outside, like you can see my face is pretty burnt. I actually got burnt on Sunday at golf.
Yeah. Because
this idiot, for the first time in years, forgot to bring a hat. Very smart, but just enjoying being outside, fresh air, using my body again. Like it's been over 10 years since I last worked outside and did a physical job. So, and I'm really enjoying it. Like,
yeah, you sound like you're enjoying it.
Yeah, like...
I'm so dirty about the golf result.
No, I'm dirty about it because I choked. I choked on the second last hole.
Well, so did I though, because that's the one that cooked me, because I was so consistent the whole way through until that the second last hole was my only real bad one. Yeah,
so for anyone who's wondering, we played golf on Sunday with a couple of the boys. We normally catch up for a Christmas game of golf every year, and Alex and I tied.
Which sucks.
First. And we smashed the other guys. They were like 9 to 12 shots behind or whatever.
Yeah.
But that hole for you, the reason why I say that I choked and you didn't choke is because you duffing it with a driver is very consistent. That's normal for you. That is a normal occurrence. So for you to completely screw up your drive, that's normal. You normally have to work your game around that. Whereas my drive was perfect and dropped just before the green, but then I shanked the chip and ended up like I would have had an opportunity to get a birdie there because it's a par 4. It's the only par 4 on the course. I should have literally just been chipping up onto the green and maybe 1 or 2 putting, so birdie or par opportunity. And I shanked my chip straight out to the right, being probably further away from the green than I was from the original shot, and ended up getting a 5.
Speaking of bad shots, how was your first tee shot?
Hey, it was alright.
Was it?
It was good enough to tie with you, wasn't it?
You didn't clear the lady tee?
No, I didn't actually.
No.
Yeah, that was a bad omen to start that game.
Yeah. So that was a bit that was a bit dirty. But then I look back, I got memories on my phone, and I think it was from 2 years ago. Robbie beat us. He won 2 years ago as per the scorecard, and he lost by 12 strokes this time around.
Yeah.
But he beat us by 2 shots.
He must have been on PEDs at the time.
Yeah. So
surely.
I wanted to start by kicking off, and I want people's feedback, because I don't know if it's just me. Is Facebook's feed now trash? Every time I open it up, it's just showing me the same 2 or 3 friends things over and over and over again for days and days and days.
Yeah, I get the same thing.
It's all of a sudden, right? It hasn't been like that.
For me, I think it's been like that for a while, a few months at least.
I'm wondering if no one's working on Facebook anymore, if it's all this meta stuff. If it's all on this...
Possibly. But it's strange that the algorithm would just change as well. If no one's working on it, it's not like they would have changed the algorithm to repeat information 3-4 times. Maybe it just comes down to the fact that Facebook's losing popularity, so people are posting less, therefore there's less new content.
Did you see news during the week that Elon Musk and Jack Dorsey have been speaking about Web 3.0?
No.
As in the 3rd version of the internet?
Really?
So the first version of the internet they deemed as read-only. So you see what's on there and you absorb it, and that's how I remember, in the 90s when I first started using it. Web 2.0 has been a lot of it has been user-generated, where you and I could, on social media, or there was blog posts and threads and forums and all that sort of thing. And then they're working on 3.0, which is going to be decentralized and heavily based in crypto. So I remember in 2017, I thought Ethereum was going to be the internet 3.0. So it'd be interesting to see, because I know Jack Dorsey, for those who don't know, Jack Dorsey was the creator of Twitter. He just left the company.
Yep. And this probably explains why he just left.
Yeah. And I feel like he's jumped out of a sinking ship. Just the way of the world. I think social media is...
It's a wasteland.
Yeah, and I think everyone's cottoning on to the fact that it sucks and are moving away from it. So I think it's just a phase. It's an experiment. We've been through the experiment. We've learnt lots. So it's time for something new. So the fact that he's moved over... Well, we don't know what he's moved into yet, but he's had that talk. That's pretty interesting. That's going to be very interesting.
Yeah. Well, look, keep us posted on that, because I think that, those two partnering up at all, they're two exceptional human beings.
Yeah.
And look, say what you want about where Twitter ended up and how Jack Dorsey has handled that. That thing was... He was pretty much a nobody before Twitter. So to go from being a nobody to being the CEO of this massive global phenomenon.
Dragon. It's like trying to tame a dragon.
Yeah. With a gack hand. Trying to tame a dragon with a gack hand. That's a almost impossible task. And especially what I'm noticing about social media is it definitely just displays the worst parts of the human psyche.
Yeah.
Which is, if there are no physical consequences for me, I'm gonna be a piece of shit.
Did someone say something to a UFC fighter once, saying he's trash, and he's like, and the UFC fighter came back to him and said, "Would you say that to me in the street?" And he goes, "No, you'd beat shit at me. That's what I'm saying on Twitter." And the guy's like, "Fair enough."
Yeah, that was Paul Felder was that fighter.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, there was a clip that went around the internet on the weekend of Nate Diaz was at the Jake Paul fight. Yeah, it was so funny. And anyway, he's walking through, making a bit of an entrance, and some fan who I believe is actually a fighter themselves and has a 2 wins, 6 losses record, was like talking shit at Nate Diaz, and Nate Diaz just squared up and made him flinch, and so bad that his beer just went everywhere. It was like this viral clip. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
The Diaz boys are built different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't give a fuck. Because apparently...
Talk shit, get hit.
Yeah, get hit. And apparently, like, the word on the street, too, is that Nate Diaz got into a fight behind the scenes at that event as well. So, I mean, but those boys are those are real fighters. Like, they grew up, they're poor, they came from a bad area, they learned to fight to survive, and that's just them to a T. And that's why they've got massive fan bases, because they're genuine. People love them.
Yeah. Not my cup of tea.
Oh, it's better when you don't listen to them talk.
Yeah, but exciting fighters.
Yeah, very exciting. Very exciting to watch. So there's been a few other things that have happened during the week. Now, one of the best parts about my new job is I spend very little time on my mobile phone. So it's good and bad, because on the one hand, I feel probably mentally fresher than I've felt in a long time, because you're just taking your time away from all this negativity. Like, you scroll through the Facebook, not the news feed, as in the old news feed, but the new news section that's got the actual news articles in it, the propaganda that they want to actually show you. And I just find you just go through and you just read the titles, and it's like, this person slams this person for... So you have to click it to find out. Yeah. Like, it's just, I hate this new... Because it's just, obviously, it's just getting...
Clickbait.
It's clickbait, but it's just ramping up worse and worse and worse. And
it's a more evolved clickbait.
Yeah, and I guess it shows you, again, how the human psyche works. Because this is the stuff that we look for. We want conflict. You know, people pretend that human beings want to be peaceful. We clearly don't.
No.
Because, like I said before, there's no physical or potentially financial ramifications for me. People are going to take, like, the worst course of action. Because, I don't know, like, we're obviously extremely flawed as a species. As far as we think we've come and evolved, especially in a technological space, like, we've done amazing things. We're still animals at the end of the day. And social media is probably the worst example of that. And I would love to see how people behave on Meta. That's going to be next level.
Yeah, that will be a really interesting social experiment. I did see another funny meme that was like, in 2021, in the 80s, we thought by 2021 we'd have flying cars. And then it was the video of that guy with plungers on his nipples making music.
Oh, yeah. Good content.
Yeah, so we'll see what Meta does. But
that dude sort of looks like you.
I don't think so.
I do.
I don't think so at all.
Everyone watching this thinks so.
That makes me the most racially ambiguous person
I think
ever.
you are. Like, you can move in different circles.
I should be a spy.
You're like the chameleon.
But something I like about the crypto space, and sorry to get a little bit nerdy here, but some of the aspects of that world are far more constructive and take some of the personality out of...
For now.
Yeah, for sure.
Until the average Joe Blow moves over to crypto and then ruins it.
I mean...
Because all these social media companies started the same way. Like, fairly constructive conversations. And...
Well, no, Facebook started as rating women on if you would have sex with them or not.
Can be constructive.
Yeah. The thing about crypto, though, is that in that crypto world, that blockchain world...
So I'm just imagining Mark Zuckerberg back in the day, like pre-money Mark Zuckerberg, rating women on whether or not he'd sleep with them.
Yes, I want to have sex with this one.
That's a big assumption, Mark. You fucking loser.
There's a lot of like consensus algorithms that are built into blockchain. So a lot of the time you kind of do need to have some skin in the game to be able to make any decisions in that world.
Which is how it should be.
Yeah, which you don't have in let's call it Web 2.0. Let's get on the trend that there is going to be a third version of the internet, right?
Web 3.0.
Yeah, but I'm referring to Web 2.0.
Oh, okay, right.
So in Web 2.0, you've got no skin in the game, like you just said. You can talk as much shit as you want. You're not going to get hit. You're not going to get financially hit. Look, some people have been cancelled because of it. So maybe there is at the very top of the pyramid, then people are getting knocked off the top. But for us laymen on the street, there's no real ramifications.
Yeah, I think one of the first signs of Web 2.0 going downhill was when, because with Wikipedia, you can edit stuff on Wikipedia. If you've got new information, you can just submit it. And when people started fucking with Wikipedia, that to me was like the beginning of the end of Web 2.0. Because everyone used to go to Wikipedia for information.
Yeah.
And the majority of it was good, solid information. But then, obviously, you get one or two bad eggs who just want to upset the apple cart, and it's usually just to have a joke or make a gag or whatever.
Yeah.
But now you go to Wikipedia and you can't trust the information anymore.
Yeah, that does make it hard. I think as a social experiment, it seems that just because you can have a say doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
And again, that's what I like about the consensus in crypto is that, like, you can't have an opinion on which way a protocol's going to go if you've got nothing invested in it.
Yeah, and I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, so that might be one step that... an example of this is when, in the workforce, right, why do we expect a worker to be as motivated as a stakeholder?
Yeah, or an owner.
Right? So...
and they do, and it's like...
Some of them do, a lot don't.
A lot don't, you're right. But it's so, you're right, like I've experienced that many times where you have people who are like, I just don't understand like why they're so lazy. They show up right on the dot when they're supposed to start, and they're running out the dot right on the minute when they're supposed to finish. It's like, because that's what you pay them for.
Yeah.
That's all you pay them for.
Yeah.
You might get additional funding through the business if they work those extra hours that you don't want to pay them for.
Yeah, correct.
Right? But yeah, I don't know, it's interesting.
So that should change discourse, right? I do also think that moving away from ad-based modelling, wouldn't it be a great world if we weren't clickbaited into seeing something? But
For sure.
And I don't know what the answer is, but
Yeah.
it would be nice not to have to be outraged to get involved.
Absolutely. And I do have to say, there is a major concern with stakeholder decision making in that the majority of the stakeholders will be elite, high level rich people. So if you have any infrastructure which is completely controlled by the 1%, it's not really for the benefit of everyone.
Well,
generally.
you've only got a certain amount of thoughts who are deciding the direction of that thing, and that's what decentralized, autonomous organizations. Yeah. That's what's beautiful about it is that you can have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of 1%ers. Yeah. All together to create a consensus of where the majority wants to go.
Well, it's like Mark Zuckerberg was saying with Meta, like when if you're getting, say, abused by someone or something, you can just go, bing, straight back into your safe zone where those people are removed from it. So he could be the little 1%er inside his own box. Because I guarantee you Zuckerberg's going to be hunted down by every hacker on Meta.
You should see... when you go into that safe zone, there should be a punching bag with that person's avatar on it, and you're just like, you just start working the bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to play. To be fair, I have not looked very closely at Meta, or the metaverse. We should be more accurate. It's the metaverse that we're talking about. Meta's the company that owns all of them. So the metaverse. I haven't looked at the metaverse because I don't like VR.
Yeah,
because I get my body does not like the feeling of it.
I like R. R's good.
Yeah. And B, I don't think they're the people to do it. I don't think Mark Zuckerberg has the right mindset to make it work the way that he intends it on working.
No, because
He's got the resource, but he doesn't have the mindset.
That's right, because he's not a regular person.
Yeah.
And you can see that clearly whenever he speaks at all.
Yeah.
He's not a normal person. And I feel like, honestly, like part of me just wonders if, like, it's a bit sad that he's a dude who's got billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars and all this access to all these high profile people and whatever. I just feel like he's trying to create a world in which he can be happy in.
But I think everyone to a point does that, but he's the most extreme example because he has the reach and the power and the money to do it.
But imagine having to go to that extent just to be happy. You've got to literally create your own universe to create a place that you can be happy.
But I would argue the family home is the same.
Yeah, I know. But maybe if you just made your family home your happy place,
well,
you wouldn't have to create the metaverse.
He's bought almost a third of the entire Hawaiian island.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's not enough for him.
Yeah, it's not enough. It's not enough. No, I see what you mean, but
you
I
can't
think,
fill your cup with stuff, Alex.
Well, no, but you can't. He has changed the course of history.
Yeah.
And not necessarily in a good way.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah, so that's why I'm interested to see what happens here. But I'm more engaged in the Jack Dorsey, Elon Musk side, and that's some other Elon news. I don't know if you've seen.
Just before we leave the Facebook thing, because you know how there's all these, like our government's just brought in new laws for policing social media.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about this.
You know what? I just want them to bring in the talk shit, get hit law. Like, talk shit, get hit. If you talk shit online, and if it's from an anonymous account, maybe the police can use your metadata to find out who it is. Mm-hmm. And then the person that you were talking shit to online, they give them your details and they can show up at your house and bash you. Imagine how much better social discourse would be online if the talk shit, get hit laws were brought in to social media.
But then it becomes purely about physicality. And that's not a fair metric either.
No, it's not purely about physicality.
I think it should be.
It could automatically become about politeness.
It should be a 6-stage round robin of various events, including that would
2-man sack race.
Yeah, 2-man sack race on the final day. And look, I hope that Web 3.0 fixes that. So the Australian government think basically they are going to push the big tech companies to be able to identify perpetrators on the internet that are abusing people. Okay, so I don't like online abuse. Nicholas Latifi from Formula One, who crashed and had a big part to play in the controversial Formula One victory, he put this big letter out to the world saying, I knew that I was going to get smashed, so I turned my phone off for 3 days, but I'm calling out this. It is inappropriate to do.
If you wouldn't do it in person, don't do it online.
Yeah. So I wonder...
It should be that simple.
I wonder if... My concern about the the legislation sounds good, okay? If there's someone that is just online bullying, and Tasha's telling me that there's some of her accounts that she follows where people go and set up new accounts just to abuse someone. Yeah. Like, that's sadistic. That's crazy stuff. Mm-hmm. So that sounds good, and that's something that you want to get rid of.
And those are the people that the talk shit, get hit laws would
Maybe if you set up 3 accounts, that's the... Yeah. But
knowing talk shit, get hit.
Knowing
2022.
What governments are like and what governments are currently doing in the digital space, I also don't think that they're trustworthy with, like, they're going to use this power.
And it's not just governments, it's powerful corporations who have a level of control. So what we've seen countless times in recent history is governments bringing in laws under this false pretense and then using it for their own means, which is what would happen here. And the thing is, the social media companies should already have a responsibility for a lot of this stuff because they pretend they've got responsibility to control the flow of content and ideas on their platforms, etc., etc., etc. So obviously they're doing a lot of censoring, they're doing a lot of shadow banning for, dangerous content, all that sort of stuff. One of the things I see all the time with particular accounts I follow, like Tim Kennedy, for example, he's constantly, like probably once a week, posts up all of the fake Tim Kennedy accounts that scammers are using to try to get money out of people. And Instagram does nothing about it.
Yeah.
Like, you've got the power. You keep saying we're trying to control the flow of information to protect people, and yet you've got blue check mark account holders going, hey, here's a list of 20 fake accounts that are trying to scam people and ask them for money. Take those accounts down. And they do nothing.
And to think that they couldn't come up with an algorithm that could match two profile pictures that are identical, the names that are too close, or maybe an extra step of verification to make sure if they do, like, they can do it. Yeah. They can definitely do this.
And then you go, okay, well, why wouldn't you? Well, does it make Instagram's user base look bigger if they just allow all of these fake accounts to exist?
Yeah.
So does that potentially become a better sell job to shareholders?
Absolutely.
And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So instead of bringing in new laws, like the companies themselves already have the means to do a lot of these things.
Just no motivation.
But no motivation. And the motivation's got to come financially. And maybe instead of that financial motivation being in the form of incentives, maybe it's got to be more of a stick. But then you got to go, who controls the stick?
Yeah.
And what are their motivations? You know, because most of the government's motivations are financial as well in nature.
But also look at, like, when you watch the American Senate hearings when they talk to big tech. How come when I search Donald Trump, it comes up with a picture of him on a donkey or something like that? And it's like, I think you need to ask the guy from Google on Facebook. Like, that's how they're just so far.
And we've mentioned that before. It's like the people making the decisions on these companies are like 65-year-old white men.
Yeah.
With no idea.
Yeah, who have a media company that...
Who look at their phone like this.
Well, no.
Like trying to find the distance where they can
They don't look at it like this. They look at it like this. They flip the phone open. Yeah. Or they turn the rotary dial.
Yeah, yeah.
So that is going to be interesting. Web 3.0 I'm very excited about. Metaverse I'm not very excited about. I know that Meta's throwing out a lot of money to people to get on the Metaverse.
Oh.
Because you would have been sent the email about content creators on there.
Oh, yeah, I end up deleting those straight away.
So I read it. It's like, basically, dollar for dollar. So instead of... currently, if you're on Facebook, if you're a creator, it's people can buy stars and then pay the content creators with it. Facebook takes a cut. They take a cut when the user buys the stars, and then they also take a cut for everything that is donated to a creator.
Yeah.
But in the metaverse, to start off, which is the same as what they did in YouTube, it's going to be, you get 100% of it.
Yeah, at the beginning.
Yeah, and...
For 5 minutes. But then they own all of your content as well.
Yeah.
So that's the thing about... So Facebook obviously recently brought out the functionality to have your podcast on Facebook. And I read the email, and it's the same, like, so anyone who posts, if you post a photo on Facebook, Facebook owns that photo. They can use it for whatever they want.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand that. Podcast, exactly the same. If you post your podcast on Facebook, they now own that content.
So we need to get on podcast
2.0, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So keep an eye, look, I'll keep you posted on that nerd stuff. That's something that I follow.
Yeah.
So I'll keep you up to date with that.
Cool. So should we move on to
the juicy stuff?
Yeah, the juicing stuff.
Yeah.
So in COVID and vaccine related news this week, Mark McGowan, WA Premier Mark McGowan, has been the first to move, stating that anyone who is affected by a working mandate, so a vaccine mandate to work, booster shots are now mandated for those workers. Which means anyone who's only had a double shot and is eligible for a booster and has not yet received one is a dirty plague rat, just like the rest of us.
And knew it was coming. It'll come out everywhere.
Yeah.
Every state's going to do it.
McGowan will just go first because he's insane and doesn't care. Old mate from Northern Territory, I'm sure, will follow soon behind. What's his name? Gunner, Michael Gunner.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll see this play out over the Eastern Seaboard, and it's so interesting how, again, they're trying to use Omicron to shoehorn these things in, and the data is clearly showing that Omicron is nowhere near even as deadly as Delta, which was nowhere near as deadly as the Alpha strain.
Yeah.
The data out of South Africa, where Omicron was first discovered, they're saying that Omicron is 10 times less deadly than Delta.
Well, I've seen interviews with people in South Africa that got it that were like 65-year-old,
Yep.
and it's just like it's a 2-day hangover.
Yeah.
And all the people that got it weren't diagnosed because they went to get tested for COVID.
It was incidental. They were
Hey,
already
by the
going
way-
to hospital or something, and they have to get tested to attend, and they're testing positive. And
Did you see Bill Gates did some speech about how Omicron is like a real major threat and
to the vaccine program.
yeah, and we need to act fast and we need to get boosters around.
Yeah, cool story, Bill.
Yeah.
So just to give you an update, and so Omicron's now the dominant strain in Australia. That's what the news is saying every single day. So I just want to give you guys again up-to-date stats because we gave some stats last week, and the key stats for me are obviously they talk about cases because that's the big crazy number. But if you talk about new cases, active cases, and hospitalizations, those are probably the most important things that we can look at right now because we haven't had an Omicron death yet anyway.
Yeah. There's only been one in the world.
Yeah.
50-year-old man in Texas with other comorbidities.
Yeah. So...
Unvaccinated.
Ooh. Fuck, imagine how much better his death would have been if he was vaccinated.
Yeah.
It would have been way better. So at the moment, over the last 24 hours, Australia's COVID cases have raised by 7,707. So we're at a whopping total of 281,215 at the moment. So remembering, I said it again last week, last year no vaccines, 28,404 cases. So this year we've had 250,000 cases with vaccines.
Yeah.
Hashtag stop the spread. So we've gone up 7,707 cases overnight. Now, that brings us to an active case total, which you have to scroll down. There's 50,075 active cases in Australia-wide. 50,075 active cases Australia-wide. And we have 976 people in hospital total. So there's 49,000 people with COVID who are not in hospital.
Yeah.
976 in hospital. There are 53 on ventilators. That number hasn't changed for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Because it's the same people
So
on
we've got,
ventilators.
yeah. So we've got 50,000 cases, 53 on ventilators, 976 in hospital. What did we say months ago? Total hospital beds in Australia was like 62,000.
Yeah.
And we're like, we gotta get the boosters in because otherwise our hospital systems are gonna be overrun. It's ridiculous.
They're still using it because I still hear that on the street.
I know.
And I had to tell someone, they're like, oh, I know a hospital and they've only got 13 ICU beds and once they're filled, they're done. I'm like, that's incorrect. They will just tell elective surgeries to go back.
That's right.
And then they'll allocate more. Because I know of an entire hospital that has not seen one COVID patient, but is ready at the drop of a hat. They can move appointments so they are ready to increase that ICU. It's an elastic number.
Yeah, and Gold Coast Uni Hospital has had a massive COVID ward pretty much be empty for the last almost 12 months.
Yeah, how many hospitals have we built since the pandy?
0.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's still in the process of building those 2 quarantine facilities though, which will only be ready by mid next year.
Yeah, and they're showing off about it like it's an achievement.
They're fucking delusional, mate.
Yeah.
But just on the boosters, I just want to say, I was thinking about this, and just so people are aware, because I think some people don't realise this, the booster shot. With the vaccine rollout, let's say that you just get Pfizer, just to pick a vaccine. This is not specific to Pfizer, but just to pick one. So let's say you're like, all right, I'm going to get Pfizer, I'm going to get fully vaccinated. The first shot and the second shot are exactly the same chemical makeup
Dose size.
And dosage. The booster shot is a smaller dosage, but it's the same thing. It's nothing different. So I was thinking about this, and I was like, just how ridiculous it is that we have scientists trying to convince us that these vaccines, which is the same formulation that already hasn't worked, Hasn't worked on the first dose. You need to have a second dose. Well, now it's not working. We're on the third dose. And it's making me feel like ladies. I think a lot of ladies out there have heard similar stories before when they've been courted by a man. And the man's like, "Oh, I'll make you feel so good, baby. You wouldn't know what hit ya." And then, boom, premature ejaculation for the first time.
Yeah.
Right? And they're like, oh, I was just so excited because you're so hot. But baby, next time, I swear to God, I will make you feel so good. And then you're like, yeah, okay, look, he talks a good game. Obviously, the first one's an outlier. I'll give him a second go. And then, boom, premature ejaculator.
Yeah.
Oh, but baby, like, you wouldn't give him a third crack, would you?
No.
You wouldn't.
I do think that this is... Look, I think they're going to sell a damn lot of boosters.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot.
Yeah.
Lot. Because the fear is still ramping up. And the thing that I found so surprising was like, we don't know how bad Omicron is. But we know the boosters will help.
That's right.
Well, how do you know that?
Yeah.
How do you know
Yeah.
that? But it's easy to know when it does nothing, because then you can guarantee that it's worked just as much as it worked
That's right. It's consistent.
the last 2 times.
But again, like we've been saying for months, this is what was going to happen. It was always going to happen. And like you were saying, so Mark McGowan went first. WA, it's now mandated for everyone. Everywhere else is going to do the exact same thing. They'll just follow along.
I want to talk about Queensland's policy in particular, because I think Palaszczuk's made a big political mistake.
Which one?
So for us red pillars, every step's been a mistake.
Yeah.
But I think she has made missteps to
Poured water on myself?
the blue pillars by doing this PCR test to travel interstate.
Yeah.
And if you've seen the lineups at these testing facilities, it is crazy, right? People waiting whole days outside. Here's a stat that I just made up that sounds good. I wonder how many people have got melanoma because it's been 34 degrees in Brisbane for the last 2 weeks, and people standing outside waiting to get a test so that they can travel, so that they can be told that they're fine, right?
Yeah.
What other, that is crazy to me. And I think because, and now the people are starting to see, wait a minute, I'm double dosed. You said that we got to 80%. We could kick on. Now I've got to wait for a PCR test, which is supposed to take 24 hours, is now taking 3 days.
Yep, I'm standing in line with my mask on.
Yeah, I'm about to get... I'm about to lose another Christmas, even though we did everything right. What's up? I think there's going to be... She's going to lose a lot. And she would have got away with it if it wasn't for those pesky kids. No, she would have got away with it if she didn't flood the testing facilities with the interstate travellers. So if she would have just left testing as is, she would have got stacks of tests, and no one would be talking about it, because you haven't just added another inconvenience to the people that are complying.
But isn't it more so she's flooding other states' testing facilities because you have to be tested to come in?
Yes, it's all of the above,
So-
but those votes don't count in Queensland.
Exactly. Is that why she doesn't care? But see, here's another stat for
But
you. So
people are seeing it. That's why I think it's dangerous.
Yeah, so there's a few things I'll say on that. But here's another stat too that was probably more relevant to what you were just talking about. How many people are contracting COVID waiting in line to get tested?
Oh yeah, that's what I love. We've said this from the get-go. If you think that you might have COVID, go to a place that's jam-packed full of other people that think they have COVID and get a test. So
I'll tell you a personal story. A few weeks ago, I was sick. So I had to go and get a COVID test. I went to a pathology centre on the Gold Coast, and they've got COVID protocols, right? So you don't go through the front door. You got to follow the signage to go around, and there's a back entrance just for the COVID patients.
Right.
Okay. So we go into the room. I'm their first cab off the rank. So I go into a room. It is probably half the size of this, with no windows and no ventilation, and we're sitting there waiting.
Hot boxing.
Old man comes through. comes in, sits down in the room. Another tradie comes in, sits down in the room. There's 3 of us sitting in a room for like 20 minutes because for some reason, remember I called you?
Yeah,
I was like,
no
something's going on, there's no one here.
Yeah.
So we were just sitting in this small room, breathing each other's air. If one of us had COVID, well, all 3 of us are probably going to have it by now.
Yeah.
Right? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It is so dumb. But there's a lot of things that are coming out of this. Dom Perrottet this week was, because New South Wales PCR testing centres are overwhelmed, is imploring people, saying, even if you get contacted as like a close contact or a casual contact or whatever, if you don't have symptoms, please don't get a PCR test.
Yeah.
Because this is, as Peter McCullough's been saying all over the internet, this is an epidemic of false positives.
Yeah.
Like, that we cycle out, we've been saying this for 12 months, we cycle our PCR tests way too high. So we are finding COVID where there is no symptomatic infection from COVID.
Yeah.
The data is showing asymptomatic spread is a myth. And it is a myth that has been used extremely successfully by the powers that be to push restrictions and vaccine rollout.
Mandates.
And the mandates. It, like, as Peter McCullough said, if COVID was able to be transmitted by asymptomatic individuals, it would be the first respiratory virus in history that has had that capability.
And just on that, if you haven't seen the Joe Rogan, Dr. Peter McCullough podcast, I suggest you go and watch it. I know a couple people have called me and said, oh my God, I had no idea. And literally flicked a switch for them. It is a really important one. It's probably the most, I would say, it's the most important one in 2 years.
For sure. But the other things too, like one of the benefits of still doing all this testing and stuff at the moment is that the case numbers keep shooting through the roof and the death numbers aren't moving.
Yeah.
So the longer they keep this going for, the lower the risk rate gets.
Yeah.
So
every day when we add 100... we need to move to modelling after this. Every day that we get these exponential rises, because this thing has a doubling rate of 3 days, isn't it? 3 or 4 days.
Oh, apparently.
Yeah, but you're right, that death rate's going to stay low and the hospitalisation is going to stay low, so that ratio... But they're not going to say it, so they'll stop saying that number. But can we talk about DOGE?
Just one thing on that. I'm just going to just throw it out there. Queensland's cases were pretty consistent for a long period of time. We were hovering around like 2,100 to 2,300 total cases for the entire pandemic up until probably a week ago.
Yeah.
We're now at 2,977. So
is that when the unvaccinated weren't allowed to participate in society? They kicked off?
Oh, well, no. It was when they allowed vaccinated people to enter the state and bring the disease with them.
Yeah.
But so we've had about 700 cases in Queensland within the last week and a half.
Yeah.
Right? That's a very large boost. That's 33% of the total cases we've had during the entire 2-year pandemic that we've increased in a week. Now, Queensland's death rate, if we just scroll down, so Queensland's death rate is still at 7, which it's been at for 6 months.
Yeah.
Or maybe even 8 months now.
Yeah.
We haven't had a COVID death in Queensland for almost a year.
Yeah.
And that hasn't changed, even though we've had 700 cases in a week and a half. No deaths.
So have we not had a Delta death? All of ours have been Alpha and Beta.
Well, I can't say no to Delta, but it'd be close.
It'd be close.
I think
it might be one or something. Because there was a guy that came from Thailand, right? He was the last Queensland COVID death.
The guy who came over after living his best life in Thailand.
Yeah.
But even now, so like you look at total death number, 2,182 people dying again with COVID in the whole pandemic.
In almost 2 years.
And out of 281,000 cases. So you're far less than 1% now. You're probably 0.8%.
That's case to death rate.
Yeah.
And case to death, that's not population to death. That's
case to death.
Case to death.
And that's the thing too. Is it's like, again, out of the death number, how many of them died with COVID after presenting at the hospital because they've had a car accident, and they test them and they go, you've got COVID, you're a COVID death statistic. So guys, stop being scared of this shit.
Yeah.
It's almost over. I'm telling you, it's almost over.
I want to talk about some of these Queensland mandates still, which there's been quite a few on social media, like cafes in particular, who have been asked to... So those who don't know, Queensland changed the rules as of the 17th of December, where only the vaccinated could be in hospitality. You're not allowed, and then as a customer, you're not even allowed to go and sit inside a cafe unless you are fully vaccinated.
Yeah. But you can walk in, order, you can peruse for 8 hours, order takeaways, leave 8 hours later.
But you can't work there.
But you can't work there, and you can't sit down, which is very, very interesting too.
But no.
Sorry.
So some of these people that this guy in particular was like, I had to let staff go that refused to get vaccinated. Mm-hmm. It's very hard to find staff in my busiest period of the year. Mm-hmm. And now, and I've only allowed, it was very hard to police, but we did it. Mm-hmm. We sent people away that wouldn't check in and didn't have the green tick. Mm-hmm. And now there's been a close contact. Now a customer has tested positive, and I've got to shut for 2 weeks.
Because they signed in, obviously, on the QR code.
Which you have to, to get in.
And now they have to shut for 2 weeks over Christmas.
So the participating in that system is going to cripple more. It's going to do more damage than it'll ever do good.
Yeah, it can only hurt your business.
It can only hurt you. There is zero benefit from a business point of view. There's zero benefit from an employee, employer, customer. There is zero benefit to partaking in that system. It is a lose, lose, lose scenario.
Yeah, and what's the payoff? Like we just said, we've had 700 Omicron cases in, call it 2 weeks. There's a 0% death rate. So what are we protecting?
Yeah.
By forcing businesses to do this? How many business owners or employees or someone are going to end up killing themselves because they just can't deal with this shit anymore?
Yeah.
We've already seen spikes this year.
Yeah.
Right? Like, who are we saving ourselves from? I've got a theory on these restrictions, especially in hospitality for the unvaccinated. I think the Queensland government is trying to kill unvaccinated people. Because think about it. When you enter a restaurant, let's say like pre-restrictions, when we were allowed to enter restaurants, so let's say there was a mask mandate in place, right? You had to wear your mask when you enter the restaurant, but then you're allowed to take your mask off when you sat down. Because that's the safe zone from COVID. Now think about it. Unvaccinated people, they're no longer allowed to sit down inside a restaurant. So you can still go into order, but they have to stay up.
At the 5 foot height where the COVID is.
That's right, in the COVID death zone.
Yeah.
I think the Queensland government's trying to kill the unvaccinated.
Well, I've got a more realistic thing. I actually think there is a targeted attack on business and especially Australian employees. And I think that in January or February, we're going to see a lot more unskilled migration. And they will be compliant because they're getting this new opportunity to work in a cool country. Yeah. And they will take up all the jobs that can't be filled by Australians. I think there's going to be a lot of that coming.
I agree with you, but I also think it's an attack on small business.
Oh, definitely.
So same as you're going to have obviously employee shortages, which will be filled by overseas workers. You're also going to have small businesses who just can't function like this, closing down, as we've already seen for the last 12 months at least, as there's been no financial support. All small businesses close down, and who takes over? All the big businesses that can just keep running and has been able to function basically normally the entire time.
Oh, they've been making bank. All the big companies. If you had capital, you are far richer now than you were before.
Yep.
And that's anyone. Anyone who had money or anyone who had something big has more than they had before.
That's right.
If you had very little, you've got less.
Yeah.
So keep an eye on that landscape. Definitely keep an eye on that landscape. Start sponsoring some of these businesses that are doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And
just on that note too, if you are unvaccinated like us, please don't take it out on the business or the employees.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Arguing with a young girl who's been stationed out the front to tell you to check in, it's not her fault.
It's not her fault.
And
write a letter to the government.
That's right. If you want to have a go at someone, talk to the government, talk to your local member who can actually go and do something about it. Because they're the ones putting the rules in, not the businesses, not the staff. Leave the staff alone. Be respectful. have a joke with them, give them a smile, make them feel good, because
Yeah.
I'm sure they're copping it all day, every day now.
Same as the testing people. Like, I could not imagine being, like, doing a 10-hour day in full PPE in the 34-degree heat, just nose swabbing people all day. Like, that's huge. That's huge.
For sure. So just be kind of it. Especially, look, hey, it's the Christmas weekend. Whether you celebrate Christmas or a different holiday or whatever your beliefs are, it's still a time of year that is supposed to be about coming together. I'm already hearing many different stories about families, uninviting people to Christmas because they're not vaccinated. Like, fucking pull your head in, you losers. Like,
So your vaccine doesn't work?
Exactly.
Is that what you're saying?
And that's this whole, like, it's the funniest thing for me about this, for anyone who is still sucking down blue pills, is, like, the Australian government is at this point now where they need to try to convince the unvaccinated people that the first 2 shots work, so they go and get vaccinated, at the same time as trying to convince the people who are already fully vaccinated that those first 2 shots don't work, so they have to go and get a booster shot. It is fucking ridiculous. Wake up, you idiots. Like, come on. And again, I don't want to blame people who got vaccinated. I don't blame you for anything.
Yeah.
The media control and the government control and the nudge
It's
units
hundreds of
and the
millions of dollars.
psychology, and no, it's billions of dollars that they put into this.
Yeah.
Billions and billions of dollars that have been invested in manipulating you. But there is enough data now for you to just, again, take the emotion out of it. I know it sucks to admit that you were lied to and that you got duped. I get it. But I think we are already seeing this awakening because of the stats on booster shot uptake.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was this week or last week, the stat came out. Only 45% of people who are eligible for a booster shot have actually gone and taken one, which means more than 50%. 55% have not. And all of a sudden, after that data came out, they had a national cabinet meeting, and now WA's mandated the 3rd shot. It is clear as day what is happening here. And the other thing to consider about that, it's based on eligible people, which means they were the first cabs off the rank to get the shot in the first place. They're your most hardcore blue pillers that are eligible now.
That's the easy ones to get over.
That's right. So if 55% of the people who are rushing out the door to get it to begin with don't want it, how much is that percentage going to wane over the next 3, 4, 5 months?
Probably going to wane as much as the vaccine.
Yeah.
Well, I think Scomo is... So remember we predicted that, and we've missed the mark somewhat. I think earlier we said January he was going to kick it up. Then I thought it was going to be December. He was going to ramp it up. And he's done such a diet and weak and diluted version of trying to do the right thing. His political career is over. There is no way that the Liberals get in next year.
Disagree.
Impossible.
Disagree.
Explain.
From what I've seen this week, I think he's actually doing very well. He has been going out spouting messages of personal responsibility. And again, when you look at Scomo, you also have to look at what Dom Perrottet's doing. Because Dom Perrottet has, to an extent, been holding the line as far as the reopening goes. In the face of record daily case numbers, he's still been pushing forward with his reopening. He has made some backflips on things like masks and QR codes and stuff like that. But again, like, at least the QR codes, I can kind of cop, because you go, okay, what do you use the QR codes for? Contact tracing. You've had massive spike of infections. All right, maybe you're going to contact trace people more. Get it. But for him to come out and go, unless you're symptomatic, don't get a PCR test, that's a big step. Because we did say months ago that obviously they were going to be shifting who's a casual contact, and the less testing you do, the less cases, and those levers don't get pulled anymore. And I still believe by at least the end of January, we're going to see an even further shift, because this has been the playbook. They make it hurt during school holidays, but then they want to get back to business as normal. Because all these pollies and stuff, if they've got kids, they want their kids to go to school. You know, they don't want to keep them at home. It's a massive fuck around for them. So, and like I think I was saying to you the other day, ScoMo can't move now. It's too far away from the election. It's 6 months away. That's way too far. People's minds,
It's March.
No, it's May. May is the latest it can happen.
The latest, yeah.
They haven't set a date yet. So theoretically, we could be 6 months away from an election. I would assume it's going to be closer to March because May, the weather's starting to cool down.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
if the cases spike, it's bad news for Scomo.
Yeah.
Right? So he'll probably want to hold it at a good time. But it might be March, it might be April, around that sort of time. You're still talking 4-ish months away. People have very short memories. If Scomo moves too quickly to open up the country, he'll lose that clout by the time the election comes around because there'll be too much negative stuff to talk about.
See, I disagree because I think that... I agree that people have very short memories, but I think the longer that this goes on, the more people realise he either is powerless against Labor-run states, or it is a game that he's letting them take the state leaders take the fall for because they're on longer terms. Either way, it looks bad on them. And what I would be doing is I would have had it all done in December, done and dusted. I'll overruled it, give everyone their Christmas back that they've wanted so badly, and then move the narrative onto something completely different. That's what I would have done.
See, I think you're missing the play here. This is not just about the federal election for Scomo. It's about the Liberal Party around Australia. So it actually makes sense to make it look like he's powerless against these Labor-run states who are having the most nonsensical approach to COVID.
Yeah, but there's no point if you're not going to be in power. There's no point of pushing the Labor.
But let me ask you this: if an average Aussie Joe Blow, non-politically motivated voter looks at the speeches that are happening and goes, "Look, ScoMo's trying to open us up, but it's Anastasia Palaszczuk and Dan Andrews who are holding us back. Well, I need to keep ScoMo in power, and that means I need to get rid of the Labor governments in these states." So then once the next state election comes around, which Victoria's got one coming at the end of next year, it actually helps the Liberal cause.
I've spoken to people during the week and who are not politically motivated at all.
Yeah.
And they're all saying, why can't he make any change? That's not right. He's the Prime Minister. He should be doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the layman on the street would think, is that the guy in charge is in charge.
So who do you put in? Albanese? Because if these non-politically motivated people, that's going to be the only other option they're going to look at, right?
Yeah, and I actually called one of them up on it because he goes, I'm going to get him out, I'm going to do the right thing, and rah, rah, rah. And I'm like, what are you going to do? And he's like, Labor. I said, what's Labor done?
Yeah.
And he couldn't tell me. And then I said, what have you considered United Australia Party? And he goes, Clive Palmer. And I'm like, see that reaction that
you mentioned this last week.
Yeah, you've been programmed to do that.
Yeah.
By them.
And that's the whole thing, though.
By the people that have been fucking you.
So that's why I still think that... I think Scomo, because they call him Scotty from marketing for a reason, I think he's actually playing it right. You still let things hurt a little bit because you want people to turn against the states. Because if they turn against the states, they vote Liberal at the federal election, they vote Liberal at the Victorian
that's going
election
Liberal.
Later in the year.
Victoria, for sure.
Maybe.
For sure.
Unless Dan Andrews declares a pandemic and says that Liberal voters aren't allowed to go outside.
Yeah.
Which could very well happen.
Yeah.
Because it's in November, so it's after the winter surge will come, right? I think he's actually playing it well.
Do you want to place a bet on whether Scomo makes it?
Yeah, I reckon Scomo gets re-elected.
Okay, so I'm saying he doesn't get re-elected, and I bet you 1,000 Dogecoin.
1,000 Dogecoin. Better buy him now, mate. I'm on. Alright, you guys saw it here first. I reckon Scomo gets re-elected, and Alex has to pay me 1,000 Dogecoin. Maybe you should go and buy him now while everything's tanked and it's cheap.
Well, no, it went up because Elon said that you could buy Tesla merchandise with Dogecoin. So, Moon. And Liam, you still owe me Dogecoin because you lost a bet and you have not paid me yet.
Yeah.
I have not forgotten. I let him off because it skyrocketed in price. Cause when we bet on the day, because I think it was like 5,000 Dogecoin we bet.
Yeah.
And this is when it was worth like a fraction of a cent.
Yeah. So what's it at now?
Oh, I haven't looked for a while, but I think it nudged 50 cents again.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway. All good? Alright, I think...
You're working now, so it's... It ain't no thing but a chicken wing on a string.
Hey, I'm telling you right now, I don't need to worry about the price of Dogecoin, apart from cashing it out when you pay it to me.
We'll see.
And on that note, let's leave it there. Thanks very much for joining us, guys. We'll see you next RDO.